Hello, and welcome to the very first podcast for the Geek Nation. I am Dwayne, your president, and today I want to kind of talk about the Magic Jack. I want to kind of give a cautionary warning to those who are using the product and also those who are considering buying the product. Now, I've been using the Magic Jack personally for probably the past 5 or 6 years. I don't have any major issues or complaints until here recently. Basically, for those of you who don't know what the Magic Jack is, it's basically a device that connects. They got a couple of different models. You can either connect it to your home network or you can connect it directly to your computer. It allows you to make and receive phone calls, local and long distance, unlimited, the way they advertised it. Basically, I haven't had any issues as far as quality, as far as sound quality. As long as you have a decent internet connection, it works very well. However, if you live in an area and the internet is crappy, then that may not be the product for you. And the cost is fantastic. I think the last time I made a payment, I think I paid somewhere in the neighborhood of $35 for the entire year. That's the reason why I left Vonage to begin with, because the pricing was so reasonable. And primarily I use it as a backup line because I have a cell phone, my wife has a cell phone, and we also use it, we use it as a backup line. We also stay in contact with family members that live out of town. And they don't have the luxury of having a phone plan that has unlimited long distance. So we communicate with them through that line. Okay, so this is where we ran into a problem. My wife and I belong to a church that uses freeconferencecall.com to do morning prayer service. Normally, we would use our cell phones to make this call. We've been making this call for the past, 7-8 years. No big deal. And there's been a couple times where I actually made this call using the Magic Jack line. No problems. So the particular morning, my wife's cell phone is dead, so we had to use the Magic Jack line to make the call. So when we did make the call, we get prompted by this Magic Jack automated message basically saying that we needed to prepay on our account in order to complete this particular type of call. At first I thought it was a mistake, and I logged into the account, and sure enough, there's a place there where you can prepay and add funds for these particular types of phone calls, basically conference call lines. So it didn't make a whole lot of sense to me because, freeconferencecall.com number is a U.S.-based number with a U.S.-based area code. What's the deal? So I went out online and started looking around at other Magic Jack customers, and they're complaining about the exact same thing that I just ran into. And I felt like it was pointless to even bring it up to Magic Jack just simply because of the fact of the responses they was giving to the other customers. They were pretty much ignoring them. And they were being very polite, but they was basically ignoring the customers' concerns. So I said, there's no point in trying to complain. I was studying a while back about how the phone system works as far as making phone calls, telephony, long distance calls, local calls. And for example, if I'm an AT&T customer and I call into a Verizon customer, even though I may have unlimited long distance, AT&T still has to pay Verizon for access to their network. Now, there's so much competition out there now that the cost is minimum, extremely minimum, and there's some situations where some of these providers have agreements with each other where they won't charge each other at all. So this is where free conference call comes into play. Freeconferencecall.com, for example, they own their own LEC. They own their own chunk of the network, and every time one of these other providers call into their network, that other provider gets charged. I don't know how much that charge is. I'm not a part of that system. I'm not an insider. But they are being charged a minimum amount every time someone calls in there, regardless if the calling customer is on an unlimited plan or not. So I'm beginning to think to myself, why would Magic Jack start singling out these particular types of companies and these particular types of phone lines? So I found out recently that Magic Jack has started their own conference call type product that's free for Magic Jack customers. Now, the way I take this, the way it appears to me to be on the surface, this is a way of saying to customers, yes, we're charging you to use third-party conference call lines, but at the same time, we have our own product that we're offering you for free. This way, Magic Jack minimizes any possibility of them getting in any kind of major lawsuit or complaint because they're basically offering an alternative to the ones they're charging for. And I don't know this for sure, and I do suspect that Magic Jack has set up their own free conference line service. It's free for Magic Jack customers, but for any other provider that's calling into their service, I do believe, just my gut instincts tells me that Magic Jack is charging other providers to access their conference line, so they're getting a little piece of the pie themselves. I still think it's a bit shady. I think it's a little bit off. It's almost like these companies, and I'm not sure if Magic Jack is the only one doing it, but it's almost like these companies are looking at guys like freeconferencecall.com and saying, we want to get a piece of that pie. We don't want to just constantly be paying these little gateway fees to this company because they're making a killing off of us. That's basically what it sounds like to me on the surface. So, my thing is it's disingenuous to sit here and advertise unlimited long distance, unlimited local calls if you're going to sit here and restrict conference calls. As far as your average Joe Blow customer is concerned, they're making a normal call within the U.S. They could care less if this is considered a conference line or not. They're still, and I understand one of the rebuttals that I seen online was, well, Magic Jacks is so cheap, even though they are charging, they're still much cheaper than your typical AT&T or Verizon. I understand that, but they're still doing it in a very disingenuous manner. They should tell you up front that not all calls are considered are not included in the plan. They should be upfront with their customers about that and let them know, or just drop charging them altogether. I just think it's a little bit disingenuous. Just my personal opinion. Is it enough for me to completely cancel my service? At this time, I can't tell you that. I don't know whether or not I'm going to. It's a consideration, but I'm not so offended where I'm just rushing now to just go hit cancel button on my account. I'm not at that point yet. It bothers me, yes, it really does bother me. But I think everybody needs to be aware of what Magic Jack and companies like this are doing. So I just want to make sure that those who are Magic Jack customers or those who are considering getting Magic Jack, I'm not saying you shouldn't use it or you should cancel your service or anything like that. All I'm saying is be cautious because, and let me put it like this in a nutshell, don't depend on it as your primary means of communication, because with them just out there willy-nilly blocking phone numbers like that, you can be blocked from a primary care provider. You can be blocked from making reservations at a hotel, airline, or whatever, because whatever number you're calling into, they're considering a conference line. And it can either be a minor inconvenience or it can be a life-threatening situation. It just depends. So I would not use it as a primary means of communication until this is properly addressed. And I still think that it's not proper for them to advertise it as unlimited local and unlimited long distance when they put restrictions on what numbers you can dial out to. I think it's just simply not right. And I really think they need to reconsider. But customers really need to be aware of that. So just keep that in mind if you're shopping around. And I mean, not just with Magic Jack. If any voice over IP service you're looking into, make sure there's no hidden restrictions, especially if they're one of these companies that the rates are really, 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 really cheap and affordable. Make sure you read the fine print. And that's all I have on this particular topic. Please rate, comment, subscribe. I am Dwayne, the president of the Geek Nation. You guys have a great day, and I'll be back with you soon with another topic. I'm out.